Good morning. I want to bring your attention to a few things that are on our agenda this week. The first thing, and we have a lot of county employees with us today. Welcome, good to see you all. I'm introducing a bill tomorrow that, and the number is, what's the number, Judy? Oh, here it is, 2416. That's getting a lot of interest. It's designed to bring transparency, neutrality, and common sense to the county's collective bargaining process. Actually, first of all, I want to, since you're all here, I want to say thank you all to the county employees who really provide tremendous services on behalf of Montgomery County. And frankly, they've been through a lot with this budget process, and that's been hard for everyone, and I am very sympathetic to that. It's been a tough time. So we appreciate everyone's forbearance in getting to this point, and I know it's been difficult. But this bill would add transparency to the beginning and end of the negotiation process. It wouldn't change the negotiation process otherwise. It will standardize employer rights across all the employee unions. It doesn't change them. It would require a labor relations administrator to ensure that all parties are adhering to the collective bargaining law and the law gets applied fairly across this various sectors. This person would be a county official that would be appointed by the county executive and confirmed by the county council. It will not preclude any public input into that decision, but it ultimately puts responsibility for the appointment in the hands of the county executive. This person is a county official. It would separate the role of mediator and arbitrator in order to encourage a more free and open discussion in mediation. We hope that this will result in more negotiated solutions and fewer issues that go to arbitration. It would create a three-person arbitration panel to make the arbitration process balanced. Each party would have their interests represented, and they would be a third neutral party. It would require that the arbitration board consider the county's ability to fund contracts without raising taxes or cutting services. I think the changes that I propose will make the county's collective bargaining system better for employees, better for government operations, and better for taxpayers. It would help our county and our employees establish more equitable contract arbitration awards and, frankly, enhance the likelihood that negotiations are funded in fiscal reality. I appreciate that this has been a tough stretch for our employee unions. This should not change their experience in the negotiation process, but I think it will make it fairer to everyone involved. And public hearing for this will be in July on the 12th. So there's that. A couple other things that we have going on. We've gotten a lot of interest in a bill on cell phone towers that was introduced last week. About 200 applications have been filed for a new form of wireless communication. They're smaller devices, and we expect that most of them be located on county telephone poles as they currently exist, or streetlight poles. So we don't think there'll be a huge change in the community, but there are circumstances where I guess there would be new ones. We are in one of the most sophisticated and connected communities in the world, Montgomery County, but as probably everyone knows, you can drive down the road and lose cell service today. We understand there's demand for more wireless capacity, and we'll see how this goes. The public hearing on this is going to be in July again. I think it's the 19th. And of course, everyone who has a cell phone is interested in that. Another thing I want to bring your attention to, there's an OLO report that will be released on Tuesday. Although I can't release the information yet under our processes, I hope you folks in the press will pay attention to it. I think you'll find it interesting. It has to do with comparative tax burdens throughout the region. And it turns out that Montgomery County comes out a lot closer to the middle of the pack than folks sometimes suggest. So the text of the report is pretty detailed, but it's worth the read, and that will be released tomorrow, and I think it'll be an interesting story for everyone. Big public hearing tomorrow night, having a public hearing on a bill to increase the minimum wage again. We did it a few years ago. This one would take the minimum wage to $15 an hour by 2020. Other jurisdictions have similar procedures in place that they've recently adopted. California would raise its minimum wage to $15 an hour by 2022. Baltimore, we understand, is looking at this. New York State has a rather complicated system. There is information in the material that will be available for the public hearing tomorrow, but that will be, we understand we have a lot of interest in that, of course. A couple of other things folks are following. What are we going to do with school buses? We have some drivers here. I don't know. But in any event, that's a big issue as to where we're going to locate the bus parking facilities. The city of Rockville is really interested in that, and so we'll have an interesting conversation on that tomorrow. I'm interested in hearing what the county executive staff have to say about this. We will not make any decisions tomorrow, but we'll get a briefing and hopefully chart out a path for resolution of that issue. And then finally, the Transportation and Environment Committee on Thursday is going to get a briefing on the Metro Safe Track program and how our county DOT proposes that the county can support our residents who are going to be at a big disadvantage as these tracks are shut down throughout the region, and particularly in Montgomery County. I understand that the county is looking at providing some additional Metro ride-on service for residents, but we'll get more of the details on Thursday. So that's pretty much what I have at this point. Do you have any folks have any questions?
Yeah, this bill here, I just want to see, how does it change anything? If the same issue arises with compensation for county employees, it doesn't seem like it changes any of the compensation powers that are still, unilaterally impose an agreement on the unions. So how does this change anything?
At the end of the day, we have a different authority, that's true. But this would control how, would, as I said, improve and add transparency and more balance to the existing process the county executive implements.
Where is there imbalance in the process?
This is a press conference with the press right now. Thank you.
We have a right to know where the
This is not a public hearing, but I'll be glad to talk with you afterwards, okay?
A citizen of the county is just
Ms.
a simple
Floreen,
question.
in the press release it says that they will create a transparent process. So does that mean that the process at this point is not transparent?
That's right.
No, that's a lie.
Could you explain how it
Big
would
lie.
become more transparent?
Well, as the bill provides, it would require that there be public disclosure of each party's initial bargaining position on all the provisions at the beginning, and at the end, it would require that any evidentiary hearing that occurs before the arbitration panel be open to the public.
And how is the language being improved? Is it being improved for the sake of the council? Or?
As I said, it adds transparency. It makes it clear that if something goes to arbitration, there can't be an assumption that we're going to raise taxes or reduce services in order to support the negotiated agreement. It puts the ability to pay as a priority.
Already is, number one.
What in this bill changes anything? What would it prevent something that happened a couple of weeks ago in negotiations between the this from happening again. If compensation's too high, I mean, I don't see how this is gonna, prevent.
Well, this isn't going to change the playing field that dramatically. There are obviously some folks who may feel differently, but there are always going to be puts and takes. The council does not get involved in this until something's presented to us, and it will retain that ability to negotiate between the county executive and the unions
How much was
pretty openly. Actually, we hope that by separating the role of mediator and arbitration, separating those functions, that would encourage people to be freer, and that's a private part of the negotiation.
So do you think the executive was not transparent enough in the negotiations?
Well, they follow the rules that we have in place, and this would adjust those rules.
That's another question.
Do you think the executive was transparent during the negotiations?
He does what is required under the law.
The last agreement was a negotiated agreement, was not an arbitrator's award, as are well over 90% of.
I do appreciate other folks in the room, and I'll be happy to talk with you afterward, as I said. I'm not having this conversation with you guys right now.
Talk on the record. Talk on the record, Nancy.
So would this result in hiring 2 additional employees for this process?
I don't know what the fiscal implications would be. To the extent that there are arbitration people, how this would, there are always costs to arbitration in terms of staffing and how they're managed. I can't give you the details as to how that would be affected by this. I don't know.
Is the council unanimous in a need for transparency in
Well, we'll see.
process?
We'll see.
Okay, so
This is just introduction of a bill. This is just the beginning. We're going to have lots of conversations about it.
Specifically prompted you introducing this bill? What issue?
I've heard issues over the years from people at least involved in the process as to ways that they feel that we could make it better. And this is based on their advice.
Was it something specifically that happened during the negotiations this year that prompted you to introduce this bill? It seems that way. And what was it?
Well, I've been thinking about this for some time, but I wanted to wait until this budget was over to have this conversation. There's no easy time to do it. If we move forward, we would add more time to the negotiation process, and that would affect negotiations that begin in the fall. We'll see how that goes.
Do you think the way the council imposed the agreement on the unions this spring was going to negatively affect the negotiations moving forward?
I can't speak to that. I think it's been rough on everyone. We hated having to do what we had to do.
You got your raises.
Sure did.
Took money from other people. It wasn't rough on you.
You mentioned an update with regard to the school buses. Are there any more possible locations being considered at this point?
Well, there's a memo on this that lays out some of the range of locations. I think I don't have it in front of me, but it's in our packet for tomorrow.
Okay. There's been some inconsistency in the way that people have to pay for parking in the county. Do you think there's any issue with that? Some people have to pay with quarters, some people have to pay with their smartphones. It's something I'm thinking on outside of this.
All I know is that certainly in the cities, they have their own systems. And so in Rockville and in Gaithersburg, they have, to the extent they control parking, they do control how people pay. Metro has its own systems. A lot of it is how much we invest in bringing the parking systems into the 21st century. Most people would rather wave their phones in front of it, probably.
So,
But it's expensive to change, and you have to talk to DOT and the parking people about that.
okay, yes, I've been in communication with them. Do you think that the council should spend more money, or the way that the paying for parking is just fine in the city of Rockville?
We have nothing to do with how Rockville chooses to charge for parking. That's it. City of Rockville is has its own authority over this.
Have you been inconvenienced by the parking meters in the city ever?
Yeah, like everybody else, we're just regular people. Okay? All right, thank you.